today we have a very interesting guest, Raako Yoagandran. He's a film director, he's an art filmmaker, and he's directing a series of biopics on Prabhakaran.
I feel that freedom of expression should be, both the side has to explain their stand. Why Sri Lankan Tamil diaspora is very keen on celebrating Mr. Prabhakaran as a god. I won't even say leader or Talavar. Why he is seen as a god? The government is portraying him as a terrorist, the world is portraying him as a terrorist, but the people who live with him, people who have seen him, people who have experienced his governance, they are treating him as a god. That one thing moved and that one thing inspired. So the kind of information I got, day by day we're experiencing. Now I started seeing him as a god.
So tell us about Methagu 2. In a nutshell, how do you see it?
I always believe that to know the history is very important for any proceedings further. So in that case, Methagu Thiraykalam has started to register the horrific history of Tamil people in Sri Lanka. So Methagu Part 1 released last year and it received critical acclaim, and people felt that especially people in Sri Lankan Tamil people in the diaspora, they all felt that it is very much useful for educating their next generation. And we also saw that in Tamil Nadu, because most of us, we are getting out of the history, so it was very helpful. So Methagu Thiraykalam decided to move on to the next part. So this part will also be as informative as part 1.
So this is the period from...
This movie starts from, the first part ends where the first, when Jaffna Mayor was sentenced to death by our leader Prabhakaran for the kind of betrayal he did in the Tamil conference. So this movie starts from that, and this goes till 1987.
Up until 87. So that is covers...
87, yeah, till the popularly known as Sudumalai Pragadanam.
Okay. So that covers the India phase of Prabhakaran, right? India phase, they call it Madras days, something like that.
Kind of, yeah, till Sudumalai Pragadanam it was covered.
Okay. So your motive or your aim is to educate people, because you have this in part 2 you have students going to the memorial, I suppose. So they are getting a quick recap of history. So is this the aim? The aim is to tell people about the history.
Okay. I don't know whether you watched that full film, but in the beginning we have said voice of voiceless should be heard. That's the main motive behind this. Because especially country like India was one of the major alliance with Sri Lanka in executing this genocide, and it's always pro Sri Lankan government. But the fact is, we all know what kind of racist mindset or genocidal approach and what kind of genocide has happened. But Indian media and Indian cinema, we have lot of movies that has included or touched this Eelam genocide. Right. But most of them are in favor or against the Sri Lankan or Eelam Tamils. So we decided, boldly, this voice of voices should be heard, and it has to be registered in the same Indian cinema where there are content that are against them.
Okay.
I feel that freedom of expression should be both the side has to explain their stand.
Okay. So it is a point of view that tells the story of Prabhakaran from the point of view of the LTTE, or from the point of view of who?
Point of view of Tamil people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't think that's been heard enough in...
Obviously, that's not been heard so far, right?
Right. Okay. So so it's a biopic. So you're going to make a series of them covering various phases in Prabhakaran's life. When you look at Methagu 1, which I saw, many of the events are just history. There's no dispute, no other, much of it. I mean, the whole thing, what happened to Tandai Chelva, and then what happened subsequently, how Tamils, their demands were never met. All that is just recorded history. There's probably not much dispute over that. Alfred Doroyappa, I think there may be other points of view. People may question that. But from now, you are entering into some, risky territory, because there's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of why would he do that? Why would he do this? Prabhakaran is a very controversial figure, to say the least, in India, across the world also. So to take that, so what are we getting into? Are you getting into a situation where you're facing a lot of criticism? So are you going to be branded as a tiger sympathizer, LTTE man, whatever? Isn't that a risk you're running?
So I'm not considering this as a question, but I'm considering this as multiple statements. So let me answer one by one.
Okay.
What is your first thing? Is like
they're very common, no?
Yeah. Prabhakaran is a controversial figure. Not only Prabhakaran.
Right.
Any freedom fighter.
Okay.
Until the freedom is achieved, he is a controversial figure. That's what I started this movie by saying about Bhagat Singh. Bhagat Singh was hanged to death. He was very controversial. For Indians, he is a hero. For the rulers that time, he is a terrorist. That's why he was hanged. Subhash Chandra Bose couldn't enter India for so long time. Still, people doesn't know whether he's alive or died. But now the freedom is attained, and Indians consider him as a great freedom fighter, great hero. And in fact, Bhagat Singh and Subhash Chandra Bose are one of the major influences of Talavar Prabhakaran. So, but it ended in a bitter way. And it didn't end. It will continue. The forms may change, but because India is a major alliance in this genocide. India has this geopolitical interest, and what you can expect from Indian media.
Right.
I'm not a Sri Lankan Tamil.
Okay.
I'm not a Eelam Tamil. I'm an Indian Tamil, born and brought up in India.
Okay.
I have seen how the media projects. I would like to put forth few questions to you, whoever consider Prabhakaran as a very controversial figure.
Right.
Till date in Tamil Nadu, even any major political parties couldn't stop people holding Prabhakaran's picture or keeping a big cutouts and all those things. He is celebrated by majority of the people in Tamil Nadu. For Tamil people, even in Sri Lanka, they are suppressed. They can't even use the word LTTE. They are not even allowed to use the word Prabhakaran. But still, I have met so many Eelam Tamils in diaspora, and so many people contacted me. They just for congratulating and all those things, and still they treat him as a god. And you blame. I'm just explaining this to tell that there is no controversy. It's just two perspectives.
Okay.
The other perspective of the oppressors call him a terrorist.
Right.
I will always love to break that because his own people. Okay. What Sinhalese, I have spoken to few of the Sinhalese people, and I could see a lot of Sinhalese people coming and talking about this matter in Twitter and all those things. And they say that they believe, and they are made to believe that LTTE captured Tamils and they were torturing Tamils, and Sri Lankan army went and saved them. That's what Sinhalese are made to believe.
Okay.
At least most of the innocent Sinhalese civilians.
Okay.
And most of the Indians, non-Tamils, I've had a very lengthy conversations with a lot of people who are well read about LTTE, but in Indian perspective. But they don't have any, most of the allegations are baseless. One main thing is the people who have seen LTTE, the people who have lived in their rule for 30 years.
Right.
Till date, they are valuing them. What else you need to
Okay.
glorify the leader as a big hero?
No, fair enough. When you say that one man's terrorist is another people's freedom fighter, I totally agree with that. Perspectives change. I visited Sri Lanka, and among Tamils, he is still the leader. But if you look at it critically, for anybody who's interested in history, there are just things that cannot be, cannot be explained away. Or, when you make a film that, it's commendable that you want to tell the history, which is nobody has actually told, right? Nobody has actually even made a film, right? That's commendable. But isn't that the risk? There are so many unexplained things. For instance, let's get into the crux of the issue, Rajiv Gandhi assassination, because that to me turned the whole tide against Sri Lankan Tamils themselves. They started getting portrayed. We were just discussing on the way about how some people, there was some police thing about use of pepper spray. And then very conveniently they made a Sri Lankan Tamil as an offender, right? The police sort of made it was a bogus case. The whole attitude to Sri Lankan Tamils themselves changed. How do you explain this?
Okay, I'll explain this through few more questions. Okay, you believe, I mean, you in the sense majority of the Indians believe LTTE assassinated Rajiv Gandhi.
Isn't that a fact?
Might be.
Okay.
I was just 1 year old that time, but I'm not getting into it whether it's a fact or not a fact.
Okay.
But I would like to put few questions. What can be the reason for that? Because I've read the book by Tiruchu Velichami, who was a close aide of Mr. Subramaniam Swamy that time, because Subramaniam Swamy was the one who accused LTTE. I mean, like before even imagine in early 90s when this incident happened, most of the I don't know how the telecommunication happened that time, but he has written very clearly that his suspicious visit to Delhi, and he's the one first to climb, and there are so many conspiracy behind that. Okay,
right.
But check all of that.
Okay.
But immediately, the moment Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated in Tamil Nadu, immediately within no matter of time, people believed LTTE has done it. Okay, what could be the reason? What could be the reason for LTTE to assassinate Rajiv Gandhi?
I don't know. That is such. It seems mindless. Why do you want to do that? I mean, it's something I don't know. Why would somebody?
So you want me to believe? Okay, I'll put this way. You came here for asking questions, but let me ask you questions to you. This is not to you because the first question when I talk about LTTE, the majority of the non-comments are put on me is about Rajiv Gandhi.
Right.
Do you want me to believe, or the rest of India to believe, they are ignorant of what Rajiv Gandhi and his army did to Indian Sri Lankan Tamils?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. Why aren't we, when we talk about humanity, do you think only Rajiv Gandhi has got life and only he is a human, and the thousands of people killed by Rajiv Gandhi are just mud and clay or something like that?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the Indian army is guiltless or that's not what I'm saying. And I'm not a fan of Rajiv Gandhi. I'm just a journalist.
You are a fan of Rajiv Gandhi or not a fan of Rajiv Gandhi? Okay, he is. It's my opinion. I believe it's true. Okay, he is some that in cinema they will call. They will show that villain. A villain whose family is 2-3 generations super rich. This guy doesn't have any other better job to do. He goes around, comes here just with his money and power. He does all the things, right? He is one such creature. Okay, he didn't know how to deal with strategical issues. It was a big failure. I even watched one VP Singh's video. It was in Hindi and I got so moved because that time itself VP Singh has clearly said what are the notorious things Rajiv Gandhi has done, and such a big country, such a big army went and chased out by a small organization called LTTE. They fought for the people, and I just want to break the myth that it's Rajiv Gandhi's assassination which was that was a tool used by Indian government to suppress them.
But it turned Indian Tamils against Eelam.
For a short time, because we are emotional idiots, for a short time, if it has turned Indian Tamils against them, today what is the state of Congress in Tamil Nadu? If they contest how many seats, what kind of support this Rajiv Gandhi's political party has, one thing. Today, what kind of support this Tamil nationalism is gaining. And you could see political parties, many political parties which has, without their support, the main Dravidian parties cannot come to power. Say, for example, Patali Makkal Katchi. So, they are always an important trump card during elections. Vidudalai Chirutaigal. All these people use Talaivar's photo in their election campaigns, and we have exclusive Nam Tamil Katchi whose ideology and everything they call it Prabhakaranism. So basically, I just want to break one myth. It's not about Rajiv Gandhi's assassination, which it was, yes, obviously it was used as a tool to suppress that movement. There was one book, it was banned in India, but when I went to some other country, I just it was a soft copy. I just saw 2-3 pages, but I couldn't. I just want to stop reading it. It's called Satanic Forces. It is nothing. I thought I've heard that when Nalini, in her confession, she told that she read Satanic Forces. She got so irritated and she got so seduced or to kill Rajiv Gandhi. So I've heard that was a confession in that. Then I was so interested in reading it, but I cannot use it in India because it is banned in India. But when I went for a shoot for an ad, I just saw and somebody showed me it when they came to know I am about to take this film. I couldn't read even 3-4 pages. I thought it is going to be an LTTE perspective, and because it is published by LTTE, it's not LTTE perspective. It is a compilation of news articles by various media at that time. And we can't even cross 4-5 pages. It's an 800 pages book.
Does that justify his assassination?
That doesn't justify. I'm not justifying his assassination here, but think from the other perspective. I mean, I want always, there are always multiple perspectives. This guy has raped so many Tamil people. He has brutally killed, tortured so many young, innocent, young adults, teenagers. They were brutally killed. They have destroyed so many villages and people, all these things. Why should they kill and rape people? What is the strategy behind that? Just to make people, people are supporting and they are standing beside LTTE and they want to break LTTE's confidence and they have to make people, inculcate the fear in the people. Okay, and LTTE fought them back. There were collateral damage both the side, and at the end of the day, it's a big shame for Indian Army. They came back, and Rajiv Gandhi during that time, he was again and again he was telling in all his election campaigns that once he was elected to power, he will send IPKF again. So think from LTTE's perspective. I mean, I'm making it very clear that I'm not saying that LTTE has done it. Okay, if at all you blame them, they have a strong reason, right? If he's saying that again the people will go on fear, they have to fight their enemies, they have to bring out from that suppression and India's political interference. There are multiple angles to it.
No, we will wait to see how you are going to portray that. I think that will be part 3, right?
That might be, that will be part 3. We will show all the incidences. Okay. See, our film is based on strong bibliography. Okay. And our team ensures that all this, for us, the books written by Tamils or Sri Lankan Tamils is the last option. Okay. We'll just search what is a Sinhalese perspective, what are Indian diplomats or Indian army people, because so many people have written about this thing, especially people who headed IPKF and people, so many. So we take from the opposite view and we justify it. Each and every scene, each and every instance have a strong evidence, not published by LTTE, not published by Sri Lankan Tamils, but the Indian diplomats who were involved on it and Sri Lankan writers and journalists who registered and few journalists from worldwide who have written it. So we are not going to make anything without evidence.
Okay. I brought up Rajiv Gandhi, because it was a turning point and many agree that sort of, as I've said.
Many agree because they don't even consider the
No, I'm not saying what...
They don't even consider what has happened 3-4 years before.
No, I'm not taking a moral position. All I'm saying is it turned people's or the public opinion in Tamil Nadu against Sri Lankan Tamils. Not just LTTE.
Yeah. That was for a short time because we are very emotional. That's why, our state is known for anti-incumbency. Whoever rules with a small instance will be emotionally voting to the opponent party, and after 4 years you'll realize, oh, that guy is better than this guy. Okay, I'll vote for him. So it's our mentality.
Okay. Now, the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi is just one example because of what many perceive to be the personality of Prabhakaran. One very well-known journalist calls him a Pol Pot kind of a person, the dictator of Cambodia, in whose career many Cambodians were killed. So that is one aspect of Prabhakaran that really stands out. That he is completely intolerant of other leaders.
Name the other leaders.
So many, I know there's justification saying they were betrayers.
I'll tell you. There was an organization called TELO, EPR, so many people. What happened to them? When there were multiple organizations fighting for the same cause, why people of Tamil Eelam stood behind Prabhakaran? Why they are considering him as a demigod? Because they know these guys are betrayals. That happens so many times. Even if you go and check out Indian freedom movement, Like till date there are a lot of controversial things, okay? So, like now whoever Prabhakaran was against, it's not like a hunger for power that's happening in Tamil Nadu or Indian politics. It's not like that. It's at the end of the day, the world has seen who was fighting for his cause, who was fighting for his own people and to make his own people live with dignity.
Amritalingam, Yogeshwaran, I mean, how do you justify that? I mean, these are people who, I heard that when Amritalingam was assassinated, so he actually told his assassin Thambi, that was, how do you kill somebody like that? I mean, how do you justify that?
So,
okay, he's a betrayer, so how do you just kill him off, you just get rid of him?
See, when you should not compare the military rule with the democracy rule, okay? It's a military rule. It was a war-prone area. It's a do-or-die game for Tamil people and the Sri Lankan government. And the Sri Lankan government was brutally killing, and I don't know why most of the journalists are not even ready to ask why the government is killing its own people, because still the country is one, right? Even today, in 2020, 21, 22, the country is in the economical turmoil. I could see a lot of Sinhalese people coming and commenting that why this north and eastern Tamil people are not coming and joining us in the protest. We could see, and I recently heard through a Sivacharya that like he went to Sri Lanka frequently, and he's not a political guy, but he was invited and like for a lot of temple celebrations. And what is the kind of mindset? Even Sri Lankan Tamils doesn't have food, electricity, petrol, everything is shortage, but still they are not ready to join with the
Why is that?
Because they doesn't even think as this as a problem. Their problem is something different. It's not a problem for food, it's a problem for dignity, it's a problem for sovereignty, right? Until date, people are not celebrating the names which you said. So many say Siri Sabaratnam. Recently, I was wondering, a business associate from Bombay asked me, I was wondering, he has said so much about LTTE. So he was talking about Siri Sabaratnam. So who is Siri Sabaratnam? Why? So the people who saw Siri Sabaratnam, the people who saw Prabhakaran, the people who saw Douglas Devananda, people who saw any of these names you are telling, Karunamurthy or whoever.
Neelan Tiruchelvan?
Yeah, whoever. But why they are not celebrating him? Why Sri Lankan Tamil diaspora is very keen on celebrating Mr. Prabhakaran as a god? I won't even say leader or தலைவர். Why is seen as a god?
Okay, given since the series is about Prabhakaran as a personality, if we analyze it after all these years, how many deaths and destruction and property, when has he benefited Tamils, Sri Lankan Tamils in any way?
Okay, I'll again put with the question. Do you think Subhash Chandra Bose benefited Indians?
He did.
So much of blood. How do you?
He did. No, I mean, in the sense.
How did Bhagat Singh? It's a continuous process. Freedom struggle is a continuous process. Bhagat Singh, when he died as a terrorist. The government, the rulers blamed him as a terrorist, right? And after so many years of his death, we got freedom, and now we are celebrating. If Tamil Eelam or Tamil people get their sovereignty back, and even in Sri Lankan parliament, despite of so much of suppression and oppression, there are Sri Lankan elected leaders in the government. They say தலைவர் Prabhakaran inside Sri Lankan parliament. That has happened so many times in last few years. How?
Okay, now,
do you think people without getting benefited? It's about, see, anyhow, the enemy is coming to kill you. Either you fight back. Okay, there are two ways of approach. I leave it to the people, okay. One day one person was arguing with me, okay. It's about rape. So somebody is coming to rape you. Why should you fight them back? Anyhow, they're going to rape you. Why don't you enjoy that sex? So this is one perspective. The other perspective is, yes, he's going to tear me into pieces, but I'll fight until death for my dignity. Same happened in case of Sri Lankan Tamils. Anyhow, this Sri Lankan government, since their independence, like they have decided to eliminate them from all levels, and they just want to, be a slave. So these are people, like they raised against the enslavement.
Oh, no, what I'm asking, these are not all new questions. They are old questions. They've been answered. They've been countered. That has been going on. I'm just interested, since you're so inspired to make the biopics of Prabhakaran. So I just want your personal story. What inspires, what in Prabhakaran inspires you? Why did you take this up?
Okay, so like during my school days, I don't know much about, because like I was born and brought up in Trichy. There was a transit camp in Trichy, so I know that like initially like I can't even believe that like that Tamil is very much different from the Tamil we speak in Tamil Nadu. So as a child, like when I was 8, 9, I went and asked my mom, I guess the Tenali movie release. I said like, why the Tamil is so annoying? I didn't like. I don't even like the fact that that is Tamil like that. Then my mom explained that's they are very pure form of Tamil and all those things. But I was like, as I grew, like I watch news and I know like, yes, people are dying and some war is happening, only that thing. But in the year 2009, like the kind of brutality happened, okay? The kind of brutality that has happened in Sri Lanka with the help of India, like Indian government sponsored genocide that happened in Sri Lanka, like that moved me a lot. And that time, like we were as teenagers, late teenagers, we all were like praying that Prabhakaran should be alive, Talavar should be alive. And I could see a lot of people having so much of emotions in Tamil Nadu towards Sri Lankan Tamils, as well as the leader Prabhakaran. That one name gives power. And as the days goes by, whenever I go, I studied in Bombay. I used to do, like argue with a lot of intellectual people, like I took journalism as my major when I studied in Bombay. Like I get most of this perspective, whatever you're talking. Some of the questions moved and it was unanswered. So then, like I decided, but like if somebody says they are Sri Lankan Tamil, the immediate question I ask is about Prabhakaran. But one thing moved me is like, the entire bunch of 140 crore people of India, barring the 10 crore remaining in Tamil Nadu, remaining 130 crore people in India believe he's a terrorist. And the government is portraying him as a terrorist, the world is portraying him as a terrorist, but the people who lived with him, people who have seen him, people who have experienced his governance, they are treating him as a god. That one thing moved and that one thing inspired. Then when this movie came, it was in the very last minute. I was busy, I was signing another movie. And I'm not a, like a fighter, freedom fighter, and I'm just a normal filmmaker. Then when I went into the movie, I, like whenever I get an opportunity to, like meet somebody who can give me more information, I used to ask all these questions. And I always believe when there is a conflict, we have to hear both the perspective. You cannot, like put your interest into it and battle. So the kind of informations I got, like day by day, while experiencing, now I started seeing him as a god. And now, not only on that, like even when I get some personal trouble or...
What about the mistakes he made? Did he make mistakes in his life in terms of leadership? Mistakes that were probably costly, that cost Tamil people and the whole movement and whatever was happening?
Okay, again I'll put you at the same answer. I believe that like, I believe that like nobody in this world can be 100% perfect. I always believe that while talking also, I will talk only 99%. I used to use the word 99% and I don't, like say, even while talking with my friends or my team members that like it's 100%. So there might be, but I have not seen anything. So what are all the things, like, okay, I know so many people saying that like LTTE should not boycotted the election that happened in 2005. So that's the reason why Rajapaksa came in the power and he was like very arrogant and all those things. But those people were saying if Ranil Wickremesinghe was there, he's such a nice person, he's a kind-hearted person. But now Ranil Wickremesinghe, even his own Sinhalese people want to chase him. They are not accepting him as a president. Such a brutal guy. So, I've read few things, like while discussing like what Mr. Anton Balasingham has said about Ranil Wickremesinghe. So, these people, like they are so, like they're thinking so forward. They have analyzed everything and took decision. So far, like to my knowledge at least, I haven't seen any mistakes.
Not just that in the election that the LTTE boycotted.
If you have time, I can talk so many things.
No, I mean, we cannot get into the whole history. I mean, it would take tons and tons of books. But point is, at some point, do you think you could have sued for peace or settled for less than Eelam, which would have guaranteed much better results?
That's not a permanent solution. So he has said so many times that if he is going to settle with anything less than the of Eelam, you can shoot him. That's what he has said so many times. And it doesn't mean that like he's not ready for peace. He's not a like war-loving person, and he has said about it so many times in his own speeches. And he's not a person like that. He's not some mad war addict guy. Yes, like there are a lot of peace talks happen, and so, like countries like Norway and so many people mediated. But what was the end result? Whenever there was a peace talks going on, Sri Lankan government equipped themselves and prepared themselves for a more aggressive war. And the final phase of war was just Sri Lankan government provoked LTTE for a war during the fourth phase of war. For Sri Lanka, they don't follow any war ethics. So even we have seen so many things in history. If somebody sees war ethics, he's gone. It has to be both the peoples, like they have to follow war ethics, or else the thing happened with LTTE is like they are more ethical when it comes to war. They didn't go randomly and kill, Sinhalese people. They didn't go and rape Sinhalese people. Hope you must be knowing the orphanages that was bombed in 2007, Senjole. And innocent kids, what do they know in the age of 7, 8, 9, 10? The army decided to bomb and kill them, and they provoked LTT, like they incited the fire. And what else you expected them to do? They didn't go and attack your orphanage or your school or nothing. They were attacking only the armed people. They didn't, we have so many evidences. There were some video which was going around among all Sri Lankans, including Sinhalese, like now in this protest and all, like most of the Sinhalese started telling that like how great Prabhakaran was. And there was a video circulating where LTTE, they released a Sinhalese Sri Lankan army person because he has a daughter and the daughter requested them.
But Eelam was never realistic. No? I mean, it was never a realistic option. How do you think in this kind of situation where India, Sri Lanka, all the big powers, was it ever a realistic option?
Obviously, see, I would like to quote about Lee Kuan Yew's struggle in creating Singapore. When Malaysia, when Singapore seceded from Malaysia, it was not even a point dot in the world map. It was, that side Indonesia, the population is huge. Malaysia, much bigger country than Singapore, and without any natural resources, not even water to drink. Can you imagine a country like that? And Tamil Eelam is much better with more resources, and it's a very big landscape compared to Singapore. Just because of that one leader's vision, Lee Kuan Yew's vision, now Singapore is way richer, way prosperous than the gigantic Indonesia or Malaysia. Even few years back when I went to Singapore, there was a water dispute between both the countries, right? And in this 30-40 years, Singapore has become so self-sustainable, and Malaysian Prime Minister was telling that like Singapore is a rich country, they should consider paying more money for the water because Malaysia is a poor country. If this Eelam become true when a leader like Prabhakaran was there, it would have been another Singapore or much bigger than that in this continent. But we cannot say it is unrealistic or realistic. When India got independence, when India was formed as a single nation, many people said it is not realistic, it will secede so soon. Now it's 75th year we are together.
Okay, fair enough. How has been the making of the movie? You said you have trouble finding people, locations. There's so many events, things that one led up to the other. What was the challenge?
Everything was a challenge while making this film. But, first challenge is money. Cinema is a very costly affair. And we decided to go up to the standards of a normal, films which was shoot with Arri Alexa or some red brand cameras and all those stuff. So with this budget, managing things, and now in this part we have a lot of gunshots, our riot scene and so many, tough to make scenes. But we have, with the limited resources, whatever was available to us, with the limited crew, when there is no money, you cannot call the expert team and make this film. For everything, the technicians are all young people, and most of them don't even know cinema. They all just come for the love of the leader. And you know, like you are telling, yeah, I want to quote this point. You mentioned that like after Rajiv Gandhi's assassination, Tamil Nadu people, you know, like Eelam people didn't get support from Tamil Nadu people. I shot this film in 7-8 districts in Tamil Nadu, in all Theni, this thing, north, south, east, west, central, all part of Tamil Nadu I went and shot. First we'll tell that like we don't let people know it's Methagu 2. But the moment they know it's Methagu 2, the kind of support they have done, unimaginable, incredible support they give us, right? They don't charge money. There were villages where people want to, you know, like give a grand feast to us, and young guys, they just come and say that like, oh my God, such a big leader you're making. So it might be there for a short time when this bloodthirst monger Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated, but not anymore.
Methagu 1, it didn't have a theatrical release here, right? It was available on OTT platform. So is that what's going to happen?
That's completely up to the production, whatever they decide, because I've
try a theatrical release.
I always want to do a theatrical release. I want to go to censor board. Censor board. I went to the censor board when the first part censor happened.
Right.
With all respect, Ms. Leela Meenachi, the Southern Region Censor Board head, she said like she watched the movie, she appreciated it, said like it's a very good movie, but we cannot give certificate because Sri Lanka is our friendly nation. What? Is that an answer? Isn't that like, you know, like squeezing our throat and, you know, like cutting down the freedom of expression? And we have bibliography very strong. I just made strong points and I argued in and out, but she listened patiently to everything and said her hands are tied. And she says that like India and Sri Lanka has some illegitimate affair, I don't know, that is preventing them to make a factual movie with facts from books and incidents recorded by Indian Army.
Are you going to try a theatrical release?
Obviously, this time also you will try a theatrical release, but now it's releasing in overseas. In Tamil Nadu also we'll fight for, you know, like censor board. We'll go, and I always advise the production, the producers of this film to go for a legal battle. When a stupid propaganda movie like Kashmir Files was promoted by the Prime Minister of the country, which calls, you know, like which triggers against another religious community in the country. When there are movies like Virata Paravam in Telugu, which, you know, like glorifies Naxalites, why not a movie, you know, like with bibliography? So I always, maybe, you know, like when we get time, we will challenge censor board in the court, because we have all the evidences recorded by them. If you are not approving this movie, then ban all those books in India. So that would be our argument in court.
Good luck.
Thank you.